My name is Johanna and I am 22 years old. At 2:00 a.m., I was lying on our kitchen floor, blood pooling around my head, my right leg twisted at an impossible angle. The pain was excruciating. But what hurt more was seeing my mom standing there, arms crossed, watching as my stepdad, Greg, continued to kick me. "Please, Mom, help me." I begged through broken teeth, crawling toward her feet. She just sneered. "You should have signed the loan." But what she whispered next. Before I continue my story, please like and subscribe if you are watching this. Let me know where you are from in the comments below. Life was not always this way. In fact, my childhood was pretty happy until my father died when I was 12. Dad was everything to me. Patient, kind, and always thinking about my future. He worked as a financial advisor and made sure to set up an education trust fund specifically for my college expenses. "Education is the one thing nobody can take from you, Joe," he would say while helping me with math homework. I never imagined how prophetic those words would become. After Dad died from a sudden heart attack, Mom and I became incredibly close. Alice Wilson. My mother was beautiful with her blonde hair and green eyes that I had inherited. She worked as an administrative assistant at a law firm, not making much, but enough for us to stay in our modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. We became a team, supporting each other through the grief. I would make her tea when she had rough days, and she would braid my hair while we watched old movies on Friday nights. We had our routine, and it helped us heal. I threw myself into school determined to make Dad proud. His emphasis on financial security had made an impression, and I became the kid who saved birthday money and worked small jobs from age 14. By the time I entered university as a finance major, I had already developed solid money management skills. Working part-time in the university financial aid office gave me even more insight into the importance of fiscal responsibility. Then, Greg entered our lives. Mom met him 3 years ago at her workplace where he was consulting on some legal case. She called me at college sounding more animated than I had heard in years. "I met someone, Joe. He is so charming and actually makes me laugh again." I was happy for her. Dad had been gone for 7 years by then, and she deserved companionship. When I came home for Thanksgiving break, I met Greg Sullivan for the first time. Tall with salt and pepper hair and an easy smile, he seemed perfect for Mom. He brought her flowers, listened attentively when she spoke, and even showed interest in my studies. "A finance major, smart girl," he said, patting my shoulder. "Your mom tells me you have quite the head for numbers." Their courtship moved quickly. By Christmas, he had moved in, and by spring, they were married in a small ceremony. I served as maid of honor, genuinely happy to see Mom smiling again. If I noticed the speed of their relationship seemed rushed, I dismissed my concerns. After all, they were both in their 40s. Why wait? It was only after they returned from their honeymoon that I began learning about Greg's background. He had owned several businesses that just did not work out due to market conditions. He was currently between ventures, but had big plans for a new startup. His charisma made these failures sound like mere stepping stones to inevitable success. Looking back, the red flags were there from the beginning. The way he checked Mom's phone when she stepped away. How he would make offhand comments about her spending habits. The fact that he always seemed to have an opinion about her friends, gradually suggesting some were not good influences. But these incidents were subtle, scattered between genuine moments of kindness and care. My visits home became less frequent as college demands increased. Each time I returned, subtle changes had occurred. The house felt different, the atmosphere tense rather than warm. Mom seemed more anxious, checking with Greg before making decisions she would have previously made independently. Let me ask. Greg first became her standard response to almost any question. Our phone conversations grew shorter, more superficial. When I would ask about her life, she would quickly redirect to ask about my classes or internship applications. Plans for her to visit me at school were made then canceled last minute when something came up with Greg's business. I tried maintaining our connection, sending care packages with her favorite tea and books I thought she would enjoy. Her thank you text seemed rushed, lacking the warmth and detail of our earlier communications. When I asked pointed questions about how she was really doing, her answers became increasingly vague. "Everything is fine, honey. Just busy with work and helping Greg with his new project." By the beginning of my senior year, the distance between us had grown into a chasm I did not know how to bridge. The woman who had been my best friend after Dad died now felt like a distant acquaintance. I told myself it was a natural part of growing up and Mom building a new life. I wanted to believe she was happy, even as the knot of worry in my stomach grew with each truncated phone call and canceled visit. The first concrete sign that something was seriously wrong came during my fall break visit. Mom had always been meticulous about our home and finances, a habit formed from years of single parenting on a tight budget. Walking into the house, I noticed immediate changes. The garden she had lovingly tended was overgrown mail piled up on the entry table, and a faint smell of cigarettes hung in the air, though neither Mom nor I had ever smoked. In the kitchen, I spotted a disconnection notice from the electric company stuck to the refrigerator. When I asked about it, Mom quickly snatched it away. "Just a mix-up with the payment," she said, with forced cheerfulness. "Greg is handling it." I later learned that Greg had quit his most recent job to focus on his business plan using Mom's savings as startup capital. The business, something vague about online marketing, seemed to consist mainly of Greg making calls from the den and taking long lunches with potential investors who never materialized. The house title had been transferred to include Greg's name, though he had contributed nothing to the mortgage Mom had faithfully paid for 15 years. She no longer had independent access to her own bank accounts, with Greg insisting they combine everything like real partners. Yet his expenditures continued unabated. A new golf set, designer clothes, weekend trips with business associates, while Mom picked up extra shifts at the law firm. "Mom, is everything okay with money?" I asked carefully after noticing her wearing the same worn blouse I remembered from high school. "Of course, sweetie. Just being careful until Greg's business takes off. You know how startups are lots of investment before the returns come in." One evening, I overheard them arguing in their bedroom. "How could you spend the property tax money on another business lunch?" Mom's voice trembled. "We will lose the house, Greg." His response sent chills through me. "Stop being so dramatic, Alice. If you were more supportive instead of constantly nagging, maybe I could focus better on making us rich. Is that too much to ask? After everything I have done for you, the emotional manipulation extended beyond finances." Greg would make passive-aggressive comments about my education whenever I visited. "Must be nice to have Daddy's money paying your way," he remarked once as I studied at the kitchen table. "Some of us have to work in the real world." When I reminded him that I worked 20 hours weekly in addition to my full course load, he waved dismissively. "Playing around in the university office is not real work, princess." His resentment toward my trust fund became increasingly obvious, though he masked it as concern. "That money is just sitting there when your mother could use help seems selfish. That is all I am saying." He began creating emergencies whenever I planned visits home. "The time Mom and I arranged a spa day for her birthday. Greg suddenly needed her to drive him to an urgent business meeting because his car would not start. The car worked perfectly fine the next day. When I expressed concerns about these patterns to Mom, she became immediately defensive. "You do not understand the pressure he is under, or marriage requires compromise. Johanna, you will learn that someday." Her friends gradually stopped coming around. Her sister, my Aunt Sarah, called me with concerns after being turned away at the door during an attempted surprise visit. Greg said, "Your mom was too sick for visitors, but I heard her in the background asking who was there. Something feels off, Johanna. Holidays became smaller, controlled affairs. Greg dictated who could be invited and for how long. The joyful, open celebrations of my childhood were replaced by tense, carefully orchestrated events, where Mom spent more time watching Greg's mood than enjoying company. The physical warning signs began appearing about 6 months before everything fell apart. During a weekend visit, I noticed Mom wincing as she reached for a dish in the cabinet. "Did you hurt your back?" I asked. "No, just bumped into the counter yesterday. I'm so clumsy lately." She pulled her sleeve down, but not before I glimpsed the distinct finger-shaped bruises on her upper arm. I began seeing more evidence. Mom flinching when Greg moved suddenly. Her startled jump when he called her name. Significant weight loss that made her clothes hang loosely on her once healthy frame. The dark circles under her eyes that makeup could not fully conceal. During that same visit, I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night and found Mom sitting on the edge of the tub silently crying. "Mom, please talk to me," I begged, kneeling beside her. "Whatever is happening, we can fix." "Fund your precious daddy's money." The first punch caught me across the cheekbone, sending explosions of light across my vision. I stumbled backward, disoriented, tripping over the step down into the kitchen. My balance failed, and I fell awkwardly, tumbling down the 3 steps into the kitchen. The sound of bone snapping was audible as my leg twisted unnaturally beneath me. My head struck the tile floor, and copper filled. My mouth as teeth cut into my lip. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, radiating from my leg in sickeningly intense waves. I tried to scream, but could only produce a choked gurgle through the blood filling my mouth, disoriented ears ringing from the pound. Impact. I could only register Greg's looming figure descending the steps toward me. "Get up," he spat, kicking at my already injured leg. The pain intensified beyond anything I had ever experienced. "Is this what you wanted to? Destroy this family?" I rolled onto my side, trying to protect my broken legs, spitting blood onto the once white kitchen tiles. Through my rapidly swelling eye, I saw Mom slowly walking down the steps, her face a mask I could not read. "Mom," I gasped, reaching toward her. "Please help me." Greg continued his assault kicks, now targeting my ribs and back. "You could have fixed everything with your signature. One signature." I screamed as his boot connected with my broken leg again, vision going white. With pain, through the haze, I focused on the kitchen clock, 2 a.m. How had it gotten so late? How long had this been going on? "Stop," I begged, no longer addressing Greg, but looking directly at my mother. "Mom, please make him stop." I began dragging myself across the floor, leaving a trail of blood from my split lip and cut scalp, the kitchen tiles cold against my palm's broken leg, scraping excruciatingly with each movement. The distance to where Mom stood seemed impossible, but instinct drove me toward her, toward the protection I still desperately wanted to believe she would provide. When I finally reached her, I looked up through swollen eyes, reaching for her ankle. "Mom, please help me," I whispered. Blood bubbling between broken teeth, she stood rigid, arms crossed tightly across her chest. Her face, the face that had once sung me lullabies and kissed away childhood hurts, now stared down with cold detachment. "You should have signed the loan," she said, voice flat and unfamiliar. In that moment, something broke inside me more painful than any physical injury. As Greg paused his assault, breathing heavily, and watching this exchange, I clung to my mother's ankle in one last desperate plea. She leaned down then, and for a fleeting second, I thought she had come to her senses. Instead, she whispered the words that would forever sever our bond. "You are not my daughter anymore." Greg is my family now. Those words sliced through the last threads of hope I had been clinging to. In that devastating moment of clarity, I understood no help would come from the woman who had given birth to me. If I was going to survive this night, I would have to save myself. Through the fog of pain and betrayal, I noticed my phone had fallen from my pocket during the struggle. It lay just a few feet away, screen cracked, but still lit. Greg had stepped back, engaged in a heated whisper with Mom about what to do next. "She will call the police," Mom hissed. "We need to." "Stop her. She is not calling anyone." Greg responded, reaching for the bottle of whiskey on the counter. Their momentary distraction gave me the opening I needed. Gathering every ounce of determination, I began inching toward my phone, biting my lip to keep from screaming as my broken leg dragged across the floor. Each movement was agony, but the adrenaline coursing through my system provided the strength I desperately needed. My fingers had just closed around the phone when Greg turned back. "What do you think you are doing?" he roared, lunging toward me. Pure survival instinct took over. I rolled onto my back and used my good leg to deliver a defensive kick to his knee as he approached. The impact was enough to make him stumble, giving me precious seconds to dial 911 with trembling, blood-slicked fingers. 911. "What is your emergency?" The operator's calm voice was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. "Help me," I screamed as Greg recovered and lunged again. 23 Maple Street. He is killing me. I managed to gasp our address before Greg's boot connected with my hand, sending the phone skittering across the floor. "You stupid." He snarled face, contorted with rage. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Mom's reaction was immediate panic. "The police, Greg. What do we do?" "They will be here any minute." Greg grabbed my hair, yanking my head up painfully. "Did they get the address? Did they?" He slapped me hard when I did not answer immediately. "I do not know," I gasped truthfully. In my panicked state, I was not sure if I had said enough for help to find me. Greg turned to Mom calculation, replacing rage in his eyes. "We need to get her out of here before they arrive. The basement." Terror washed through me as he grabbed my broken leg and began dragging me toward the basement door. The pain was so intense, I nearly lost consciousness. Black spots dancing across my vision. "No one will find you down there until we figure this out," he grunted, struggling with my dead weight. "By then we will be long gone." Desperation gave me one last surge of strength. As he pulled me past the kitchen island, I remembered the self-defense class from freshman. "Orientation," the instructor's voice echoed in my head. "Use whatever you have. Fight dirty if your life depends on it." My hand closed around a heavy wooden pepper grinder on the counter. As Greg bent to adjust his grip on my leg, I swung with all my remaining strength. The makeshift weapon connected with his temple with a sickening thud, sending him staggering backward. His knee, already weakened from my earlier kick, buckled. He went down hard head, striking the edge of the counter, before he crumpled to the floor, momentarily stunned. The next few minutes blurred into a chaos of shouting and frantic movement. Mom and Greg arguing bitterly about what to do, blame flying between them. "This is your fault." Mom spat at him. "You went too far." "Me? You just stood there watching?" He shot back. "You are as guilty as I am." Their self-preservation instincts quickly overcame their mutual recriminations. I heard Greg say, "We need to go now before the cops get here." Mom did not even look at me as she rushed upstairs, returning moments later with a hastily packed bag. She grabbed her purse, extracting cash from her wallet and gathering important documents from the kitchen drawer. Not once did her eyes meet mine as I lay bleeding on her kitchen floor. "This is not over, Greg," threatened as they prepared to flee. You keep your mouth shut about this if you know what is good for you." The sound of their car starting and tires screeching from the driveway left me in sudden, deafening silence. Alone and severely injured, I focused on staying conscious, knowing that passing out could mean never waking up again. The adrenaline that had kept me fighting began to fade, allowing the full extent of pain to wash over me. My broken leg throbbed with each heartbeat, ribs screaming with every shallow breath. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, and the kitchen tiles felt ice cold against my cheek. To keep myself awake, I began counting the white ceiling tiles, forcing my mind to focus on the simple task. 1, 2, 3. I made it to 37. Before the distant wail of sirens penetrated my consciousness, the sound grew steadily louder, a lifeline pulling me back from the edge of darkness. Red and blue lights flashed through the kitchen windows, casting surreal patterns across the blood-spattered floor. I heard shouting then, the splintering crack of the front door being forced open. "Police, hello, anyone here? Kitchen." I tried to call, but my voice emerged as little more than a whisper. Footsteps approached rapidly, and suddenly the room filled with officers' weapons drawn, scanning for threats. "In here we have a victim." A female officer knelt beside me, holstering her weapon. "Ambulance is right behind us. Stay with me." "Okay." "What is your name?" "Johanna." I managed tears of relief streaming down my face. "They left. My mom and stepdad. They did this." The officer took my hand, her touch, gentle but secure. "Johanna, you are safe now. We will find them. I promise you that." Paramedics rushed in their efficient movements, a blur as they assessed my injuries. Multiple fractures possible. Internal bleeding, head trauma. One reported into a radio. "We need to move her now." The process of being transferred to a backboard sent fresh waves of agony through my broken body. But the paramedics worked with practiced care. "You are doing great, Johanna. Stay with us," the female paramedic encouraged, as they secured my neck in a brace. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I caught a glimpse of the family photos still hanging on the wall. Mom and me at my high school graduation. Dad holding me on his shoulders at the beach. The wedding photo of Mom and Greg, their smiles now seeming like grotesque masks rather than expressions of joy. The surreal feeling of leaving my childhood home on a stretcher surrounded by police and paramedics struck me with full force. This chapter of my life had closed permanently, sealed with blood and betrayal. As the ambulance doors closed behind me, I knew I would never return to that house again. I drifted in and out of consciousness during the ambulance ride and have only fragmented memories of the emergency room. Bright lights, urgent voices, the sharp sting of an IV needle, a doctor saying, "She needs surgery." Immediately, when I fully regained consciousness, sunlight was streaming through unfamiliar window,